Hello! There we are. And welcome back to the Spoilercast, the show where we talk about movies and we don't care about spoiling them because it is the Spoilercast. My name is, of course, Tobias, and with me, as always, is my sister and trusted co-host, Rebecca.
Hello.
Hello.
Please. My cat just jumped on the table and that's why it's all wobbly, if you're watching.
If you're watching this on YouTube, but you can also listen to us on all major podcast platforms, including iTunes or Apple Podcasts, whatever it's called, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Podbean, and Podcast Addict. I think that's all of them. I'm sure there's some more. Pandora? I'm not sure. Either way, and if you want to hear even more Spoilercast, where we talk even more about movies, we actually have a Patreon where you get one extra episode every goddamn week. It's patreon.com/don'tmakeascene. You also get monthly commentary tracks. You get early access to another podcast called Madness in the Method, which is
other stuff.
And other stuff. But let's not talk more about that. Let's talk about the movie at hand. The movie we're talking about today. It's Guillermo del Toro's Nightmare Alley. And,
we have to do one more thing. We have to say, this is released on a Saturday.
Yes, this is, in the future it won't really matter, but for now, this is our first official Saturday release.
Yes.
We have recently decided to change our schedule so that every free episode that comes up on all the podcast platforms will be released on Saturdays. Before it was always Thursdays, but we're changing that just because it makes more sense based on the release schedule of movies here in Sweden.
So if you've been watching us on release days or listening to us on release days, you had a Thursday episode and now you have a Saturday episode.
Yeah.
Next week there will be a Saturday episode and so on.
The Thursday episodes are no more. They have moved to Saturday.
Yes.
But Monday will always be Patreon day. So once again, check us out on patreon.com/don'tmakeascene for that extra episode every damn Monday.
Yes.
Now we can move on.
Nightmare Alley.
Nightmare Alley. It's from 2021. Well, I guess it's technically going to be a 2022 movie for us because we're in Sweden.
And it premiered today.
Today.
Actually.
Yeah. Yesterday, as from when you're listening to this.
Well, yes, we're recording this on the night of the 28th.
Or 15 years if you're listeing to this in about 15 years. But whatever.
28th of January.
Yes.
We just got home from the theater, basically.
Yeah. And it's a I would call it a thriller.
Yes. It's tagged as a crime drama thriller on IMDb.
Yeah, something like that. Starring Bradley Cooper, Cate Blanchett, what's her name? Mara Rooney? Rooney Mara. Rooney Mara, sorry. Rooney Mara.
Toni Collette.
Toni Collette, right, that's
Willem
her name.
Dafoe, Richard Jenkins,
Ron
Perlman. Bunch
Perlman.
of names.
Yeah, a lot of famous actors. David Strathairn in a smaller role.
Mary Steenburgen.
Oh right, yes, that was so much fun. And in very small roles, we had Stephen McHattie, who was literally in one scene, and also just
Jim Beaver, if anyone knows who that is.
Holt McCallany from Mindhunter and other movies, Clifton Collins Jr. But also
Tim Blake Nelson.
In literally one scene, like I said, we have Stephen McHattie, and in the very next scene, only one scene, we have Tim Blake Nelson.
Yes.
Which was very strange, and I'm wondering if those were like cut for time, because that's another thing about this movie. It was almost 2 hours and 40 minutes, so about 2:25, 2:30 without credits.
Yes.
Which we'll get into more about, but did not need to be that long. However, the plot is fairly simple, which I did not expect.
Yes.
It's a guy who joins the carnival as just a hired hand at first, but he takes a liking to the card readers and the mind readers, and he becomes very skilled at reading people, and he takes those skills and move on from the carnivals and into the lounge rooms of the rich and famous.
Starts his own show, basically.
Yes. And that's basically the plot.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because it's described on IMDb like an ambitious carny with a talent for manipulating people with a well with a
You
few
well
well-chosen
chosen
words, hooks up with a female psychiatrist who's even more dangerous than he is. Thing is that's kind of the way they spin it in the trailer. But the female
Yeah.
psychiatrist, played by Cate Blanchett, she's not really in the movie a lot. And she's
No.
not introduced until like way over an hour into the movie.
And the whole thing, even more dangerous than he is, that's the last scene, basically.
Yeah. All right. Since this is a new movie, we are the spoiler cast. But how much
Spoilers
do we care about
galore.
spoiling this movie?
No.
No, okay, good. Me
Honestly,
neither.
I'm actually gonna straight away go and say this. Don't watch this.
Oh, okay. Well, running ahead,
I mean,
because I was
don't
going to ask,
waste 2.5 hours.
what did you think about this? But now we know.
Not, at least don't pay for it. I mean, watch it at home so you can pause it. Because
Yeah.
it's so long and
Sure.
so slow at
Yeah,
points.
like that's a short review, I suppose. It's not terrible,
No.
but don't pay movie theater tickets for it. Pay rent. Rent it for like what, $4 or whatever. That's worth it. In a few months, you can just rent this on Apple or Google Play or whatever, YouTube. That's worth it.
My headphones kind of disconnected for a second there, but yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
But yeah, okay. So we know now you don't like it. Did you?
I mean,
did you
I'm not
like
a
it
fan.
at all?
I'm not a super fan. It's visually a beautiful movie.
Yes. Well, that's
The costume, the designs, the everything is gorgeous.
that's kind of what he's known for,
Yes, but the story is bland almost.
Mhm.
Sure, there were some exciting parts, but it felt like he took two separate scripts and kind of threw them together to make one long movie instead of having it be two different movies.
Yeah.
It almost felt like at the 1 hour mark, the first movie was over and we started a new movie.
Yeah, the first
A
hour
sequel or
is
something.
almost its own kind of like tragic love story. just
Yeah.
taking place at a carnival.
Exactly.
And then it becomes this story about an unhappy couple grifting the rich and famous in
Yeah.
Buffalo, New York.
So yeah, I literally checked my watch and it was a 1 hour mark when they left the carnival.
Yeah. Almost
That's the
exactly
first
1 hour.
movie. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I always had this imagination that Guillermo del Toro is a great filmmaker.
Yeah.
But now we talked a little bit after the movie, and I realized that the only movie I've watched that I actually think is great is I don't even know the English title for it. It's
I think it's Pan's Labyrinth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Beautiful
I agree.
movie.
I love that
Great
movie.
It's terrifying but amazing.
Yeah, it's a dark fairy tale.
Yes.
Classic dark fairy tale.
This
yeah,
one had potential because it looks like it when you're seeing all the trailers and the clips and the posters and goddamn cast.
Oh yeah.
But it's kind of falling short. Even some of the acting didn't feel like it. I don't know if the characters were written too flat or if the actors couldn't take directions from Del Toro. I don't know.
I don't think the actors were bad.
Some of them were a bit flat.
I think it has more to do with the directing.
Probably
Because this is based on a book called Nightmare Alley. It was written in 1946, which I didn't even know. I knew it was, I found out. I didn't actually know it was based on a book.
There was a movie adaptation in 1947 already,
Yes,
right?
it was. They probably like bought the rights right after the book was released.
Yeah.
And there was. I'm thinking like, is this like a classic novel, and that's why he adapted it? And the only thing, because the only like reviews it got was in 2010. Maybe this is like I don't know. I don't know why it wasn't reviewed like at the time. Maybe they didn't review books back then. But then at least the Pulitzer Prize winning book critic Michael Derda proclaimed, "I was utterly unprepared for its raw Dostoevskian power. It's not often that a novel leaves a weathered and jaded reviewer like myself utterly flattened, but this one did. It's more than just a steamy noir classic. As a portrait of the human condition, Nightmare Alley is a creepy, all too harrowing masterpiece."
I imagine the book might actually be more exciting.
It could be,
this
yeah.
might fit better as a book.
it would be interesting to see, yeah, because it really feels like the first hour of this 2.5 hour movie is just the like opening chapters.
Yes.
Um,
It's probably just the first, I don't know, 30 pages or something of a 250 pages long book.
yeah,
Because they didn't write like 600 page epics back then, probably. Just looking at like classics like Frankenstein and stuff. But yeah, I think it's better suited for a book.
yeah. Whoa.
You're reading trivia or something.
No, I'm reading the plot of the book. Yeah, the book sounds a lot more interesting. Because they, instead of spending so much time setting up the carnival, it spends a lot more time with Stan and Molly when they leave the carnival. Here we go. Now, I just
turned into book talk.
Yeah, well, I just have to, because I was just looking to see what people thought of the book. But here we go, because the plot is that Molly, another like performer who she does like electrical tricks, her and Stan kind of fall in love with each other, so they run away and start their own act where he is like a mentalist and she is his assistant, yeah. So that's basically the same way as the movie is. And then it says, their act becomes very successful, but Stan grows bored and transforms himself into Reverend Carlisle. Ooh. So he's no longer just like a show and dance man. He is now a reverend, like someone to be taken seriously.
Oh, the guys who like fake that they can.
Yeah, he's an upstanding spiritualist preacher offering seance sessions with the help of his medium Molly, now his wife, but appearing as Miss Cahill. Blah blah blah. Stan gains a devoted following, but the stress of leading a false life leads him to seek help of a psychologist.
That's so better.
Yeah. A psychologist named Lilith Ritter, which is Cate Blanchett's character.
Yeah.
Who seduces and then begins controlling him. Stan pleads constantly for them to go away together, and Lilith eventually agrees, suggesting that the Reverend Carlisle swindle a rich man for the getaway money. Ezra Grindle, like in the book, movie, who is who is a ruthless auto tycoon. In this one, we don't know what he is. He's just rich.
He's just ruthless.
That doesn't matter. But he's a ruthless auto tycoon with a skeptical interest in the occult. Yeah. Which I guess he kind of has in the movie as well. Stan manages to convince Grindle of his powers, and the businessman becomes a devoted spiritualist. Stan keeps Grindle hooked by promising to reunite him with his deceased college sweetheart Dory, who died in a botched back alley abortion. Which they kind of tiptoe around that in the movie. I don't know why. Just say it. It's like...
Yeah, well, they make it sound like he killed her, so I don't know if he tried to perform an abortion or if he just forced her to have one.
Yeah. Anyway, Grindle convinced her to seek... botched back alley abortion, Grindle convinced her to seek. A reluctant Molly plays Dory in a series of sessions. So she actually shows up as a ghost then. But
not
eventually,
just one time
but eventually breaks character, destroying the illusion, and Grindle vows revenge for Stan's lies. Stan tells Molly,
want to read this book.
Yeah, Stan tells Molly to go back to carnival life. Oh, so he just says like, I fucked up. You better like get away from me. That's okay. That's nice. At Lilith's suggestion, he decides to go into hiding with Grindle's money, but later discovers that Lilith has stolen a majority of it by replacing the $500 bills with singles. All right.
Jesus Christ, there's a long...
Yeah, when he confronts her, she tells him that he is deluded and attempts to have him committed to a mental institution, and he narrowly escapes. He flees and resorts to performing as a mentalist at increasingly shoddy venues. Barely evading the men, Grindle continually sends after him. Eventually he becomes a hobo, staying afloat by giving tarot readings and selling horoscopes. He descends into alcoholism and depression when he discovers through a newspaper article that Lilith has wed Grindle. His life is in shambles. Stan finds a carnival owner and asks him to join the sideshow as a palm reader. The owner then blah 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 blah. We won't read the end. We won't give away the ending.
No.
So that makes more sense. And that story, just reading that, I get what the movie is about. The movie is about greed. It's basically a movie about greed. He got greedy, and he did the spook act, which he's not supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's the one thing he was told by every other person. Like, don't do the spook act, where you pretend that there's a ghost who knows someone in the audience. Like, it's going too far.
Yeah, where you like start connecting the person to that ghost. They can tell like, oh, they're here, but that's it. They don't go further.
Yeah. But he got greedy and did that. And in the movie, that just means that he gets money from Grindel to do that. In the book, it means he builds a cult around it.
Yeah.
Which makes much more sense.
It does. I mean, a 2 hour, 30-minute long movie could have had all that.
Yeah, we didn't need the first hour, because the movie, it's literally an hour of showing him working at the carnival, learning some of the tricks, having a brief fling with Molly before they run away. That didn't bother me though, because it was like a 50s romance. They only need to like dance once and they're in love. It's fine.
Yeah, that's how it works.
But it spent this hour really not setting up much. It sets up that he learns the tricks from Pete and Madame Zena.
Yeah. Sweet Pete.
Yeah, and also something they didn't really dwell on very long is the fact that he, by mistake or on purpose, killed Pete by giving him wood alcohol instead of drinking alcohol. I don't know.
Nah, he did it on purpose.
Yeah, but why didn't they put more emphasis on that?
Because he didn't want it to be on purpose.
Yeah.
He, much like the opening scene, we can give you the opening scene. Jesus Christ. The opening scene is very ominous and has not much to do with you don't know what it has to do with the story until the very end.
It has nothing to do with the story. It has more to do with the character building, and I like that aspect. The problem is that it's not really utilized exactly. The movie feels more. Yeah, go ahead.
It starts off with, you can see him, the main character Stan here, played by
Bradley Cooper.
I almost want to call him Face from 18.
Face from 18. Yeah.
He's dragging a dead body into a pit inside a house, and he sets it on fire. Yeah. And he leaves.
And you're not sure, like, oh, is this someone he swindled or someone he murdered,
is it someone
or
he killed, or is
we
it
don't
a family member? We don't know. And he's literally quiet for the first at least 15 minutes of the movie. I think he's just
liked that. That was characters around him speaking and him mostly reacting. It was nice. It was good, like
almost natural
visual storytelling. Yeah.
He ends up at this carnival.
Yeah.
And he starts helping out, and just by happenstance he ends up going with them, and he gets to stay.
Yeah,
more or less.
Starts working as like a stagehand, basically.
Yeah, for different parts, and he becomes friends with them and stuff. Jesus Christ! If you can hear that, my cat is yowling in the background. I'm sorry. But then you start getting to the slow part. That is just repetitive. Him becoming friends and helping out and becoming more of an important person in the background of this carnival.
Yeah.
Because people start trusting him for some reason. And asking him for help. And allowing him to come with ideas and stuff. Even though he's just some sort of helper.
Yeah. And I mean, and the thing is that...
And it just goes on for too long.
All that was interesting. To see him, like, to see him learn the tricks of the trade.
Sure.
It's just that...
It just went on too long.
Yes, because we knew from the trailers that was just the opening. It's going to take place in, the glitz and glamour world.
Yes.
So you're just wondering, like, when are we going to move on? Because, like, it did not need to be an hour long. That needed to be at most, like, half an hour. At most. It was dragged out unnecessarily long. And I mean, at first I didn't really care about it. Because it was all very nice. It was all very nicely set up. You had that's when you have all the good actors. That's when you have Toni Collette, and you have Rooney Mara, and you have Willem Dafoe, and you have Ron Perlman, and all of those. So it's fun to watch. David Strathairn.
Yes.
Clifton Collins Jr. So many good actors. And it's fun to watch. And it's actually, like, more of a fun environment than the typical 50s ballrooms and whatever hotels. So I didn't mind it, but then when the movie moves on, and we spend another like half hour with them just doing their show basically, and it's a 2 hour gap where all of a sudden they're so in love, obviously in love. I mean, so much in love that like she stands between him and her like adoptive father sort of when he tries to kill him, and like says, "No, I love him. Don't you understand? We're gonna run away together." They're obviously genuinely in love. It's not just him trying to like, "Hey, doll, come with me." It's not like that. They're genuinely in love.
Wants her specifically, not just any
not just
girl.
like her act or whatever. Yeah. No. But then 2 years go by in literally a second.
Yes.
And then it's the typical he is ambitious. He's grown cold.
Yeah, they work too much. There's no space for fun.
She feels they're pushing it too far, especially when he starts doing the spook act. And all the build up that you need in a relationship like that is just it's just implied. Like, well, you know how all relationships go bad. You're not. Why even question the fact that they're unhappily married now or whatever?
We get no actual. They don't show us that. Really.
No, it just cuts to them being cold towards each other, or him being cold towards her mostly.
Her being hesitant, I suppose.
Yeah. So it spends so much time building up this kind of unnecessary detail about him that he's good at grifting, which didn't need an hour. And then it just fast forwards over the interesting parts, the relationship, and then goes into this subplot where they're living in a nice hotel. They're doing 2 shows every night. They're obviously making pretty good money.
Yeah, because they're permanent residents. It's like a Vegas show. You live at that place.
Exactly.
You're always performing.
But I guess then his greed makes him get in cahoots with this psychologist after she tries to out him as a fraud at a show, and he manages to save it. Yeah. And he's
which is, I mean, talented, obviously.
Oh yeah, sure,
he's
definitely.
Good at what he does.
Yeah.
But that opens the door to doing private sessions with rich people.
And because she knows the upper class people in the city, and since she's a psychologist, she has the dirt on them, so that he can use for his act. The thing is that act where they like in the book where they like build up this cult around him, the psychologist and him. Yeah. That's 2 people he grifts in the movie. Mm-hmm. It's the first guy is just some executive director, whatever. Who?
No, he's the Mr. Cahill.
Oh yeah, he was like a judge or something.
Yeah, Judge Kimball.
Oh, sorry, he was a judge, but whatever. Cahill. And he's just a mark in the show. It's not because of her grift.
Yeah.
The only one
he actually looks up him basically.
Yeah. And she just helps him to further, get some money out of him by doing more sessions. But the only one she sets up for him is this. Ezra Grindle. Yeah. The ruthless guy.
As well, I mean, it's the judge who recommends Ezra to contact him somehow.
Yeah. So like the only thing she really does, she just doesn't even want to provide him information about Ezra because she's like scared, like you shouldn't do this on Ezra. He is too ruthless. If he ever finds out that I gave you this information, we're both toast, basically. And he's like, listen, doll. He literally like talks like a 40s man then. It's kind of funny. So he steals the information from her.
So she's not even in on it technically.
Yeah, technically not even in on it. But I guess that was her plan? Because then, just like in the book, it fails because Molly feels really bad about actually faking being his dead love, basically. Yeah. However, in the movie, it's just once, and she fucks. Well, she doesn't really fuck up. It's more that he doesn't play along.
Well.
And then she says,
Mr. Stan doesn't manage to control Ezra as he planned.
Yeah, exactly. It's not really her fault, but it's partly her fault. She should have just run away or something. Whatever. Doesn't matter. It's not her fault, but you know what I mean. So then he kills Mr. Grindle because he says, I'm going to destroy you. I'm powerful. So he just beats his face in. Literally, his nose is pushed into his face.
the man has just admitted to like hurting a bunch of girls, and he's holding on
Yes.
to
Yes.
Molly very tightly. So it's a bit of a defense, but then he just keeps on beating him.
Yeah, and then his manservant shows up and starts shooting at them, so they run, or Stan runs him over.
Yeah.
Once again, very violently, but that's Guillermo del Toro, so I don't care. It was
No,
cool to see, like,
violence
his head caved in and his arm broken off.
Yeah, it was detailed and well done, but disgustingly so.
Yeah.
Not bad, just disgusting.
Yeah, and just to make clear also, this is just the third session with Grindel.
Yes. That we get to see.
From what you understand, a short time, because it's always snowing, so it must be just during the winter months.
Well, yeah.
So at the most, like three months. Anyway,
but I mean, Ezra makes it sound like immediately that he wants to do this as soon as possible, straight away, all the time, basically.
Yes.
Until he can spend the rest of his life with this dead girlfriend.
Basically, yeah, or at least atone for what he made her do. So they kill them. Run away to the hotel, or like some back alley,
Because they can't go back to the hotel.
Yeah. Where Molly just says, like, this is it, man. I told you I didn't want to do this. Now you fucked everything up. I'm leaving. She just walks away.
Yeah.
And you have the classic, I don't need you. I can do this without you.
Basically.
Literally minutes later, he walks into the psychologist Lilith's office to get the money so he can run away, because he's been storing all the money there.
It.
Yeah, because he didn't want to worry Molly about the money, which is just stupid, really.
He didn't even want to let her know about the money. Shady.
Yeah. So she gets all the money out of the safe, but he starts checking the money just to be sure.
Well, she says something that makes him question it.
Yeah. She like starts hinting that she's been playing him or grifting him. And he's like, what are you talking about? So he checks the money, and it's all ones instead of $500 bills.
Yeah.
He's like, where's the money? And she pulls out her gun and shoots him and calls the security like, she starts saying like, you're crazy. We didn't have any deal. You're just a patient of mine.
Records parts of it so that makes it sound like it's
realistic, yeah. And then she calls security and they start chasing him. So he runs away, hops a train, cut to, 6 months later, he's now a train bum with a big beard, who lives in a shanty town and drinks alcohol. Like, what happened? He didn't have any money stored away except for the Grindel money?
That's where, I mean, the way you tell it, it sounds like you're just like cutting it short to make it.
Yeah, no, that's literally what happens.
That is literally what happens.
It's literally the last 25 minutes.
Whole
if
scene
even that.
At the end there with the psychiatrist, with Lilith, it actually comes kind of out of nowhere. We don't really get any build up to that reaction.
No.
We have a couple of sessions.
Yeah, where she tries to like suss out who he is for some reason. Yeah. Doesn't really go anywhere though.
Like she's almost hypnotizing him. She makes him tell her things that he doesn't really want to tell her.
Sure.
But it's not enough to actually tell us that she's like using him.
Because it's literally 2 scenes in a 2.5-hour movie. There's not enough time for us to like.
They're like 10 minutes in total.
Yeah, like we don't have enough time to like get to know the characters to understand like she's playing him while he thinks he's playing her. Yeah.
We know nothing about her except for the fact that she has a giant ass scar on her torso.
Yeah.
Which also, what did that have to do with anything?
Yeah, he asks, where do you get Grindel? How did you get that? And she's like, life. I got it from life. I was like, okay, what are you getting at?
It would have even made more sense if she's like, but this is what Grindel does.
Yeah, that would be too on the nose though.
Sure, but it would have been more on theme.
Yeah. Yeah, because it almost feels like she doesn't want him to do a seance with Grindel. But then
that's reverse psychology?
Yeah, but then the scar doesn't make sense, because the scar makes sense if she genuinely doesn't want him to swindle Grindel.
Yeah.
And she actually cares about him. Like, now the scar is just like, okay, so she has a scar. That could just as well be from an operation. What is the point of showing him the
shoddy
scar?
Operation, if that, but
sure. But I mean, in the movie, what does the scar symbolize? it should have been ambition or greed,
Yeah.
but then it
could
turns
also
out
be
that
weakness, I suppose, but they're not fleshing that out enough for it to be weakness.
no.
Because
So
it could be her showing that she's weak, and that's how he's like, oh, I want to be protective of her instead.
yeah, but then
'Cause
she
that's
isn't
when
weak.
he sort of falls in love with her, I suppose.
Yeah, but then
Even
it
though
turns
he
out
swears up and down he doesn't.
yeah, but then it turns out she isn't weak 'cause she was playing
Yeah.
him, and she gets all the money in the end.
Which
Even though she obviously didn't need the money, she's well off.
oh yes, based
Obviously,
on her office
she's
only.
a big, nice office, beautiful clothes. Like
fancy manicure.
she works as a psychologist. She obviously has money, so
Yeah, in this giant Art Deco building in the middle of the city.
yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Like if she was just like in a small office,
Then
and they started doing this whole Reverend whatever his name is, Carlisle,
Yeah.
the Reverend Carlisle thing, and they were building up this following, getting money,
And
then,
more
yeah,
money. Just,
and
not
she
just being
she
paid.
started dressing better. She got a bigger office. She could bring in richer people to get information from, so they could then swindle them out of the money. That would make sense. Now she just
I
does
mean, the
this
first
because
job with Ezra gives him $10,000.
yeah. And I'm guessing at the
The
end,
only cool thing we get out of that is him managing to fool a polygraph,
yeah.
which is sure very cool.
Yeah, well, that's another thing I've got to say quickly before we continue discussing the stupid script. Individual scenes, great.
Amazing.
That scene with the polygraph was awesome,
yes.
and how he fools the sheriff in the early parts of the movie,
Oh, yeah.
really cool. And
how he figures out Lilith's handbag thing.
yeah,
That was very well done.
these long scenes where he's just doing this great monologuing. Bradley Cooper's great. Everyone's great in this movie.
Sure, yeah.
But it's the movie is it's what do you call it? The sum is no. It's what do you say? The parts are more than it's less than the sum of its parts. Like
Yes.
individual scenes are like great. I was all giddy.
Yeah.
But as an entire movie, you're just like, so what's the point?
Cause we do get this whole like circle of life. We do come back to something that is
Introduced very early in the story.
Yeah, which
I mean, it's literally set up in like the first 5 minutes, and like I told you right when it was over, I almost wanted to lean over to you, but I didn't want to like start talking right as the movie started and say like, that's foreshadowing, and it was. Fuck it, spoilers. Like the first thing,
spoiler.
yeah, spoilers for the end. The first thing he sees when he walks into the carnival is a geek show.
Yes.
The classic like freak of nature that they're feeding live animals to.
Is it human? Is it animal?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And and it's pretty obvious that this is just some poor man that they're forcing to eat live chickens because he's like crying as he's doing it. And later on, when he joins the carnival later that week, basically, yeah, he goes to have the geek gets injured, so they leave him at a hospital
of some sort,
church hospital, where you can just show up if you don't have any money, whatever. And then they go have steak and eggs, him and Willem Dafoe, Clem, who I guess it's the owner of the carnival.
Him and like
Ron Perlman's character.
Perlman seem to be like running the show.
Yeah. And he talks about like how do you he asks Stan asks Clem like how do you procure a geek? And he explained that you get a hobo who was obviously either like addicted to opium or just addicted to booze, and then you tell him like I got some work for you. It's just a couple of days. I'll give you some nice hot food, give you a couple of drinks, and then you just keep him on by slowly feeding him more and more booze. Just stay another couple of days, and then you slowly like poison him with opium in the booze.
Yeah.
And he'll be addicted to the booze. And when you tell him like we don't need the geek anymore, sorry, you got to move on. He's like, no, I'm desperate. I'll do anything. And then you have yourself a real geek who'll eat live chickens. And we see this.
They die or get hurt, and they just do it all over again.
Yeah. And it was so obvious, because that's when you lean over to me. You're like, oh, that's going to be him. basically. And I was like, yeah, that's where they're getting at. Because otherwise, why would they explain? And that's how it starts. Because he walks into the carnival, and Ron Perlman says like, yeah, I got you can help us tonight to
they need help
take everything down.
Take everything down because it's a storm coming.
Yeah, you'll get $1, but then you have to move on. But then he needs to help out a little more, and then he can stay the night, and then he actually gets regular work there. And first of all, I thought, like, it's just going to be one long where they're just trying to turn him into a geek, but no, it isn't.
No.
That's just like poetic justice in the end, because, like we said, he hops a train, hides out with live chickens, which is very on the nose.
Very.
Becomes a hobo who is then an alcoholic, which is also kind of funny because he
starts out the movie with never touching alcohol.
He's a teetotaler. Yeah.
Until
Lilith.
Just before Ezra, I suppose.
Yeah, and
Lilith makes him drink for some reason.
Yeah, no.
Or somehow.
She keeps offering him drinks, but he never takes them until one time he just does.
She doesn't offer him one that time. She takes a sip and then kisses him, and then he downs the rest of the whiskey, which is just. But okay, he got the taste from her lips, or what? I don't know.
Yeah, and then he drinks 3 more glasses of whiskey. This is in the span of a few weeks. We see this.
Yeah.
So he's not an alcoholic when everything goes to shit, but he is an alcoholic when he's 6 months later or whatever.
Molly does point out that you stink of alcohol at one point.
Yeah, but that's because the scene before he had literally just had a drink. So you don't get the feeling that he's like started to drink and he's losing his talent. It's just like, oh, he had a drink. That's why he smells like.
He does look a little bit more disheveled.
Yeah.
A little bit. Whenever he's not doing the act, I suppose.
But he kind of did that before. The first time you see him in the hotel room when it's been 2 years, he wakes up from a nightmare.
True.
He looks all like disheveled because he's racked with guilt, because we slowly find out that the guy who he dragged into the hole in the house in the beginning was his dad.
In the beginning was his dad.
Yeah, who he had been like taking care of in the end of his life, and then finally he just had enough.
He couldn't do it anymore, so he killed him.
Yeah, by freezing him
not
to death.
actively, but well.
Yeah, freezing him to death. Yeah, that's actively killing him.
Yeah, but I mean, he didn't like smother him.
No, but yeah, he
just opened the window and didn't give him
his blankets. Yeah. So he dies. And then of course I guess then he did kill Pete for some reason.
I think it's the same though, because he steals his father's watch. It's him sort of killing people to be able to move on in life, I suppose. And if Pete was still the guy who was doing the magic show, the tricks, he could never take over that part. But if Pete died, he could start taking that over. However, don't develop that properly, because once Pete dies, we don't see him become that in the show. Instead, we see him leave the show and start his own shit.
Yeah. And I mean, and once again, it's too ambiguous whether or not he killed Pete deliberately. Because it's not like you see him. I mean, yeah, I'm talking about this movie's way too on the nose, but at some points, it needs to be a little on the nose. Because we don't even see him, like, look guilty or, like, everyone's running to watch Pete and him just staying behind. No, he's just acting like, oh my god, what happened?
He's a really good actor.
Yeah, but you have to show the audience that he feels guilty. You never see him feel guilty for anything he does.
You see that 1 second of hesitation when he leaves Pete with the bottle. Yeah. Because at first he's like, he's asleep. Maybe I shouldn't put it down. But then he puts it down to pick up the book, which is when Pete wakes up.
Sure.
And then he's like, you know what? I'm gonna leave you with the bottle. But then he hesitates at the stairs and then leaves anyways.
But that moment isn't strong enough to hold up. No, it's not enough to hold up the entire character arc.
It only gives you a seed to, like, perhaps.
Yeah.
But a perhaps isn't enough to give you what the character actually is. Because even though we eventually find out that he did kill his father, we never get to see him be a genuinely bad person.
No.
He's just a what do you want to call it? I was about to call it a player, but I mean, that's not the right word. Yeah, swindler, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, like, he's never guilt-ridden.
He doesn't want to kill people. He just fools them.
Yeah,
But
like
somehow he ends up killing 4 people.
yeah, and it's I mean, and in it, like I said, in a 2.5 hour movie that is solely focused on this character, it needs to be more like like God, I don't want to sound like, oh, it's too subtle, but it is too subtle.
It is too subtle. We don't really know who this character is, to be honest.
And like we can figure it out. Obviously, we figured out that he's feeling guilty.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing, and it's guilt and greed. But
Yeah.
but like in the movie, it's not shown in the movie. We just figured out because it's a classic like film thing. Like, you know, the greed got to him. It's Scarface basically. It is Scarface
without the cocaine.
Yeah.
It's whiskey instead, I suppose.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, it's the same thing. Like there's nothing
you
groundbreaking
also
here.
Have the subtle. You have in the beginning the fun house, which is not a fun house, for Christ's sake. It's a horror house.
Super creepy.
So scary. In the first section of that, you have the sins.
Yes, it's a lot like look
and
at
the only ones we see are, I think, greed, lust, and pride.
Yeah.
And on the poster we have greed, wrath, pride, and lust, and the 7 sins plastered. So sure, they're telling us that, but they're not telling it enough.
No, yeah.
And once they do use it, it's too subtle.
Yeah, it's focusing on things that are not important. Like, the focus should be on his guilt.
Yeah.
From killing his father and killing Pete. I mean, he hated his father, he says, but he seemed to genuinely like Pete. And I mean, he genuinely liked Xena, who was Pete's wife or
partner?
lover or whatever. Partner. So like killing her partner should make him be very guilt ridden. But we rarely see him in like bouts of guilt. Yeah. There's that one when he wakes up from his nightmare, we see him he's sitting in the house on fire, you know.
Yeah.
And he's like and then there's one time when he's in Lilith's office and she's like prying into his background. And he's like, no, I don't want to talk about this. Oh, the guilt. But that's it.
Yeah, that's the thing where it looks like she's hypnotizing him a little bit.
But that's it. We don't get any more insight into him as a character.
No. And this whole progressively showing us that he did in fact kill his father isn't telling us that he's a bad person. It's just telling us that he got fed up with that situation.
Yeah, and the only information we get is that his father was an alcoholic who ruined the family, made his mom run away with another man, and leaving him and then he finds God and becomes like sober. But he, of course, he's sick from being an alcoholic his whole life, so he leaves his
too late.
Yeah, it's too late. So he leaves his son to take care of him in this obviously like shack of a house, like
because it's a derelict house in the middle of fields. It's just
so like while killing is wrong, I can understand his hate towards his father.
Yeah.
But from what we find out, but that's just what he says. Maybe it wasn't like that then. I don't know. The movie doesn't tell us.
That what we see isn't enough to give the character the flesh to become a killer in general.
No, yeah, exactly. If they spent more,
see that development.
Yeah, I mean, if we had Stan grows bored and transform himself into Reverend Carlyle, an upstanding spiritualist preacher offering seances sessions with help of his medium, and gains a devoted following, that would like make sense. Cause he keeps grifting more and more people, and the guilt building up from all these people he's fooling and taking their money.
At the same time, his greed is
Yeah, exactly. Like, he wants to keep doing it because he's so greedy. He lusts for money. He stops lusting after Molly and starts lusting after money. But then also, that is weighed up then by the guilt of ruining these people's lives by taking their money, you know, and lying to them, basically. But we don't get that. He lies to 2 people. That's it. And that's why I'm wondering, like, why was this 2.5 hours long? Like, the movie we had was easily 90 minutes.
Yes.
And if you're gonna do it 2.5 hours,
you could have done it as 2 different movies.
Yeah, Yeah, yeah. You know, it would have been, and since it was Guillermo del Toro, I thought they were gonna do like some sort of supernatural angle, but
Yes.
they didn't.
I thought there would be more fantastical stuff. I thought at one point that he would actually turn out to be a real psychic, that
Yeah,
he would
yeah.
have connections
Now,
with the afterlife or
now
whatever.
we can't really fault the movie for doing that because that's just us
Well,
making
no.
up another movie.
Sure, yes.
But imagine this. This is me rewriting this movie because I'm a better screenwriter than whoever wrote this. Oh, it's Guillermo del Toro.
Right.
Imagine if the movie starts with hotshot psychologist Lilith, whatever her name is, Ritter. And she's pretty successful. This is me. I'm just pulling this out of my ass now, so it might not work fully. But she's very successful because she is great at being a psychologist. She's good enough so that, you know, all the richest people in town come to her to talk about their problems, including, you know, judges and ruthless auto tycoons named Ezra Grindle. But then one night when she because she frequents bars, even some of the seedier bars, because you know, she likes to live dangerously, which is a part of her character in this movie, which they just tell us, they don't show us. Because, you know, she's so in control that she wants to like live dangerously when she's not in control. You know, the whole, you know, almost like sadomasochistic, but not on that level.
Yes.
So then one night when she's in the lounge and drinking, she sees this guy, this medium, standing on the stage, reading people's minds and telling people what they have in their pockets and stuff. And she's like, I don't believe this. Like, this sounds crazy. And then, you know, she moves on, and then another night she sees him again in another bar where he performs. And she starts picking up on, like, wait a minute, this is just coded language, which it is in the movie.
Yeah.
So she takes it upon herself to, like, debunk him.
Which, again, is technically in the movie, just very short.
Yeah, it's just 5 minutes. She debunks him, and then they, like, wait, maybe we should grift people together.
Well, he kind of fools her, but she's like, well.
Yeah.
And that's when she wants him to go to her office so she can psychoanalyze him.
Yeah. But then, yeah, so then she decides, like, yeah, try to befriend him.
Utilize his.
Yeah. I'm not sure then if it's gonna turn out that, you know, her mission is to debunk him, but it turns out she actually can't because he is for real. Or if she decides that, well, with my know-how and your clever words, we can make even more money, and she's greedy as well, you know.
Yeah.
Do it from her perspective. That way, we cut out the entire first hour, because that hour is not necessary.
No.
And it becomes from her angle. Then we slowly find out why he is good at what he does. It's because he's ruthless. He's killed before, and then she realizes maybe like, yeah, this is too dangerous. I need to get rid of him. And it becomes this cat and mouse game. Like, who's chasing who? Because at one point he's so powerful as this spiritual leader for people that their little grift, she's not sure if he's in control or she's in control anymore, and they start kind of chasing each other. And in the end, it's like in this movie, she shoots him in his office and like, I guess you couldn't read me after all, blah blah whatever, and he dies.
This one, instead of the guess I am a powerful woman.
Yeah.
You.
Well,
you see, that would have been a better story. Yes, and from the first trailer,
I did not imagine what it was.
Sort of, yes, sort of. It was more of a she trying to debunk him kind of thing. I thought she was in on the lie detector part, for example, because that's how they cut it in the trailer.
Yeah,
I didn't.
But she's barely in the movie.
No,
she's just a footnote. It's all
even
about
she
him.
Is like the also yeah, and the poster they are posting it as if all the three ladies are influencing his life and his story, but no, they're
not really that important. Yeah. The most important one is Molly, but like the people behind us talking about when we were leaving the theater, she didn't really have much to do in the movie other than feeling like be there and be his like arm candy and then leaving him because he was cold. Like, she didn't fill any real purpose.
No, she didn't propel the story forwards at all. She didn't really bring anything to any of his...
Toni Collette's character had more than because he would feel guilty over killing her partner.
Yeah,
because
she
she was
became-
Xena.
Yeah, and she became somewhat of a mother figure, I suppose,
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah, but nope. Yeah, I
No.
kind of thought he was going to be, like the.
I thought he would replace Pete at the carnival for a while.
Yeah, and almost be like the villain of the movie.
Yeah.
And Cate Blanchett
The
trying to figure
ladies,
him out.
like,
Yeah, but
teaming up to take him down or something.
no, we
No.
focus on the most boring character in the story, basically. No,
Yeah.
not really, but
No, but it would have been... I don't know. It's just... I mean, he is kind of the most boring character in the movie,
yeah,
to be honest. Because we do get to know more about most of the other people
yeah, and they
that
are
are
more
in
colorful.
focus.
Yeah.
Yeah. We know a lot about Xena and Sweet Pete.
Yeah.
We know their whole love story almost, and that they lived in France, in Paris for a while they did their biggest shows, and they were great within the show business
Yeah.
of this sort of psychology, whatever show business.
Yeah.
And I mean, we know that Lilith, Cate Blanchett's character, is a giant within psychology.
Yeah.
Then, of course, you have the classic little girl who falls in love kind of thing with Rooney Mara.
Yeah. She's like
She seems like
kind
she
of the
would
most boring
be...
character.
Yeah, but she feels like she would have been a 17-year-old girl falling for a 30-year-old man and just going along with him because she's so infatuated.
Yeah.
But they didn't really play that up either. They just
No.
made her seem childish while she was at the carnival. Then all of a sudden she's all grown up and bored with him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's.
We're just repeating ourselves by now.
Yeah.
The movie was lacking a lot.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful.
Well, it's
visually, it's beautiful.
It's lacking in the writing and the directing. Like, all the sets, amazing. The photography, amazing. The music, I don't really remember much, but
marvelous sometimes.
Yeah, and the acting great.
Yeah,
and that's usually what's good in his movies. Like, he has an eye for setting up good like scenery and acting.
Yeah.
But I thought, like,
the story
the story was so lacking. I'm very interested in reading the book, though.
Yes.
It sounds more formulaic. But
sure.
Sometimes that's what you need to tell a good story. You need a well-worn formula.
There's a reason that is the formula.
Yeah. So, let's read some reviews, because it's got pretty good reviews. It's got a 69 Metascore out of 100, which is pretty good. It's almost a 7. I know it had
critic reviews, right?
Critic reviews, yeah.
It had not do the users.
What are the users? Are there?
I didn't check, but I'm guessing they're gonna be like, what the hell? Actually, no, maybe not, because it's got a 7.4.
7.4 is pretty good for user reviews. But anyway, critic reviews. The best one it has is from Variety, which calls it a gorgeous, fantastically sinister moral fable about the cruel predictability of human nature and the way entire systems, from carnies and conmen to shrinks and Sunday preachers, are engineered to exploit it. Yeah, but we don't see the whole system. We only see a couple of people. And that's nothing new. I don't know why that is a 9 out of 10. Whatever. Then we have Hollywood Reporter giving it an 80, with a semi-playful nod to the 1945 film Detour and a few more rain-drenched streets. Nightmare Alley pays tribute to noir. Yes, I was going to say that. That's why I think the dialogue was kind of silly sometimes, because they were literally talking like they did in the 40s.
Yeah.
Like, when they're in her office, like I said, he literally says, "Listen, lady," and like lighting a cigarette. I think it was supposed to be silly sometimes. But anyway, it's also it's its own dark snow globe, luminous and finely faceted, and one of Del Toro's most fluent features. Then we have some more middling ones.
I'm kind of ogling through some user reviews at the same time. I think people are being pretentious.
Yeah, well, we'll get into why they're a little bit pretentious in a second. But here's one that I think fits what we what we think about it the best, I think, from Entertainment Weekly. Nightmare Alley is both beautiful looking film, and an oddly forgettable one.
Yes.
Maybe because borrowed material is no match for the ingenious creations of Del Toro's own mind. Well, that's not true. It's not. I don't think it's a source material that is bad here. It's him rewriting it. Like the ending of the third act of that book sounds a lot more interesting than the third act of this movie. And let's see, the worst one it got was. Well, that wasn't the one I wanted to read. Well, whatever. Vanity Fair. There's no 4 out of 10. There's no shame in a remake where the re-rendering is genuinely fresh, but Del Toro's take empties its source material of significance. Yeah. Taking us for a gimmicky ride. Who are too complex for the underwritten characters. Which is too complex for their underwritten characters. Yeah, exactly. The characters are underwritten, and there is the significance of the source material is gone because it's too focused on just details. Right, and why people want to like this? You know why people want to like this? Because the last movie he made was The Shape of Water, and for some reason people have decided that's the greatest movie of all time.
Yeah.
I've already talked about that back then, that I didn't like it because kind of like this one, it was too on the nose. Problem is that movie is super like racism is bad, or like we shouldn't judge people for being different. Like, sure, but that movie was like it was like children's book level of moralizing, like
Jesus.
And it was hailed as like the greatest movie ever made. I don't get it. It's so dumb. It's such a dumb movie. You should watch it. I don't know. So we can, you know what? You shouldn't. I kind of want you to watch it so we can discuss it, but it's not worth it. It's just bad. Once again, though, great performances, awesome costume design, great sets. Because just like this, it's all like raining, and it takes place in the late 50s, but it's similar. Like nice cars, hats, everyone smoking. It looks awesome.
The visuals are great.
Yes. But the script sucks.
I've been scrolling through some of the user reviews now.
Yeah.
And everyone giving it a high score is not talking about the story.
No, because the story...
All the high scores are talking about it's a beautiful movie. It looks good. The acting is amazing. And I hope it gets the recognition at award shows it well deserves just for the acting alone. No one is writing that the story is fantastic.
No, because it isn't.
However, the ones who are giving it low scores, like the one here just calls it thumbs down, 3 out of 10. I generally haven't been a fan of most of Del Toro's movies.
Sure.
I like his style and how out there his movies try to be, but for the most part they don't land for me. So take this review for what it's worth. I was enjoying this movie for a while. It's generally well made with good performances, especially Cooper, but the story doesn't progress in any kind of intriguing way. I started getting bored.
Yes, just like we.
It doesn't really amount to anything. So many parts of this movie go nowhere. I felt completely unsatisfied and was happy to leave the theater.
Yes.
That actually sums it up pretty well.
That's perfect, yeah.
Feast mode, whoever you are on IMDb, we agree.
Yeah. Good on you. That's perfect. Much more succinct than us babbling on for an hour.
But I like people are giving it 9 out of 10 just for the style. I mean, someone is writing. I must say, at first, it's a little slow, but a riveting story about Bradley Cooper's character in 1941. I mean, the base, sure, is riveting, I guess. What it's supposed to be, but it's going on for too long without actually telling us that.
Yeah,
so,
and it doesn't amount to anything. Oh, greed is bad. Greed will leave you like destitute. Wow, how revolutionary.
I mean, the way this person that gave it a 9 out of 10 describes the story is just that Bradley Cooper in the 1940s that works in a carnival, learns to be a medium, and gets involved in some sketchy stuff.
Yeah.
That's all they say about the story. How is that riveting?
Yeah, how is that riveting?
Then they go on and saying that it's cinematically beautiful, has
Oh,
lots
yeah.
of unique characters, and
Yeah.
the love story. Well, oh
It
Jesus,
starts out very
love
well.
story is not that special.
No, but it starts out good.
It's odd, and they were surprised.
Yeah.
I was like, sure, but why would you recommend it?
Well, you know what?
Really?
You know what it sounds like when I listen to those kind of reviews. I think this is kind of like this is like the closest equivalent this would be like a Transformers movie, where the script is dog shit, but ooh, look at all the pretty explosions and cool robots.
But in this case, you get to sound more cultured because it's a Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, and it's not about silly robots and explosions. It's about people, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's still the same thing. It's ooh, look at all these cool sets and look at all this good acting and pretty people. But it's still just, I mean, for me at least, what's most important in a movie is the story. You could definitely have a movie that works more on a visual level, but this movie is obviously like it's setting up as, you know, it's supposed to be a movie with a good story, not just a visual movie.
Yes.
So this movie cannot just survive on visuals alone.
No. But they're trying very hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and this is on par for him as a director. Yeah, I haven't seen everything. The first thing I've seen of him is Mimic, which he made back in '97. That's just your standard horror movie about mutated cockroaches that can they disguise themselves as humans. It's pretty cool. I actually rewatched it a few years ago when I was growing up, and it's still pretty cool. It's it's a trashy movie, but it's pretty cool. And then Devil's Backbone, which I think was like the one he became famous for. I haven't seen that one. Then he made Blade 2. Once again, really cool with the virus vampires.
Oh yeah.
But it's it's a silly movie. It's just that it looks cool. Then he made Hellboy, which is the most boring superhero movie ever made. Because once again,
cool though.
It looks cool. And Ron Perlman looks awesome as Hellboy, but the story is shit.
And you have a lot of cool character design, but that's based on a comic book, right?
Yes.
So he got some influence.
Yeah.
Shape of Water dude looks lots like the water dude in Hellboy.
And it's the same actor, yeah, and it's kind of the same makeup. They designed him to look as Abe Sapien.
So it's his separate story.
No, not really, but
No.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. But then he made Pan's Labyrinth, and there's where his sense of like visual flair and a good story actually work together. I know some people say the story isn't good, but I think that's the one time he managed to do both things good. It looks good,
Yeah.
and it is like it has a story, a good story.
It's one of the few ones he's done in Spanish, right?
Yeah, I mean, he did some stuff before Mimic. I think he did stuff in Spanish, but after he moved to Hollywood to make Mimic, he's done stuff in English mainly.
Jesus, my mic did not pick that up. Perhaps he works better in Spanish.
Maybe, I don't know. But then after Pan's Labyrinth, he followed that up with Hellboy 2, which I didn't even bother to watch, and people said it was worse than the first one.
Still has beautiful visuals, but I've never finished it because it's so boring.
Yeah. And then he did Pacific Rim, which we talked about because we both seen the one. That's a silly movie, because it's just straight up like a live action anime. Yeah. But the fact that it's made with 100% sincerity, which is very rare when it comes to something silly like that, that's admirable. It's still a stupid movie, but it's fun to see big robots fight big monsters.
Yeah.
Then he directed the opening credits to one episode of The Simpsons. Doesn't count.
Nah.
He directed the PT video game. No, he didn't.
No.
That was Hideo Kojima.
He directed 2 episodes of The Strain, which is, again, it's based on a very cool, like
book.
Yeah. The
book is
the core story is very interesting.
Yeah. I didn't like the show. I watched the first few episodes, and I thought the book was much better because I read the book before.
Yeah, they strayed away from the source material too much and just changed
too quickly.
I didn't like that.
No. And then
now we have
Crimson Peak, once again, so beautiful. A classic ghost story. But the plot was it wasn't boring, but it did. Once again, there was
it
no
was lacking something.
What was the point? What was the point of it?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was
It
a
was still
ghost story.
more entertaining than this one, to be honest.
Maybe I
Because
haven't seen it since
had more of
2015.
a scare, as far as I remember it, and at least you had some sort of scary emotionals instead of just okay, what's happening?
Yeah, I suppose. And then of course, I mean, Shape of Water, which everyone thinks is his like best since Pan, if not even better than Pan's Labyrinth, and I didn't like it. And then he just did Troll Hunters, with some sort of kids show on Netflix, I think.
Yeah.
And then this, and then his Pinocchio movie is coming out soon, and
People are very excited for that, though.
I was very excited till I saw this.
Yeah.
But at this point, and I've actually had this discussion with someone, I don't remember who, that Guillermo del Toro isn't good. He had one fluke, which was Pan's Labyrinth, and he has coasted on that for over a decade now, over 2 decades, almost 2 decades.
Hollywood must like him as well, though, because the people he managed to pull.
Yeah.
To have it, Kate Blanchett, Rob Perlman, and Tim Blake Nelson are in a lot of his movies.
Yeah, and I mean, in Crimson Peak, he had Mia Wasikowska, Jessica Chastain, Tom Hiddleston at, well, right before the height of his popularity, I suppose. Charlie Hunnam. And of course, in Shape of Water, he had what's her name? The main lady.
As I've seen it, I'll reserve myself the right to not know it by heart.
Why can't I see?
It's Sally Hawkins.
Sally Hawkins, thank you. Sally Hawkins, Michael Shannon.
Richard Jenkins again.
David
Hewlett again.
And Octavia Spencer, who won an Oscar for that movie. Michael Stuhlbarg, of course. Like, yeah, I don't know if it's like, because, yeah, I don't know what it is they like about. Maybe he's like showing them concept art, and they're like, ooh, how beautiful! I want to be in this movie. Because it can't be the scripts, can it? Like, oh yeah, I loved Blade 2, so I really want to be in Crimson Peak. That can't be it. You're not picking up anymore. Hello?
Hello?
There we go. Are. Hello.
Perhaps the script he's showing them in the beginning looks nothing like what it ends up being, or perhaps in reading it, it sounds so different than what it actually becomes once it's on screen. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something, he must have some sort of magic touch somewhere that just doesn't
translate
itself well
to the
on
actual
screen.
Movies. Yeah.
Because,
Because most of what he does is middling. It's, you know what, and this is, I think I've talked about this before. It's the one good thing that what's it called, nostalgia critic Doug whatever his name is has said. He said in many years ago, 2009 it had to be, or 2010, he had something called Bum Reviews, where he portrayed this bum who reviewed movies, and he made a bum review for Avatar that was just one sentence, which was, pretty pictures plus lame story equals pretty lame.
Yeah.
And that's every Del Toro movie. Pretty pictures, lame story. Pretty lame. That's what it's time and time again, except for Pan's Labyrinth. He makes a movie with really pretty pictures in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. And it's really irritating because I want him to make another Pan's Labyrinth because it's so good. And he tried, but it's just, and and like I said, I wasn't a fan of The Shape of Water, so I don't know why I was so giddy over this one. I thought maybe this.
The trailer made it look really cool,
and maybe I thought like this would be the one that is actually like Pan's Labyrinth or something. I don't know, but it wasn't.
No.
It was just bad, or it was just blah.
It was just dull.
Yeah.
Beautiful but dull.
Yeah. What do you say?
It's like a model. They look pretty. They don't give you much to talk about.
Yeah.
Well, I give up.
Yeah.
Honestly, don't recommend it.
No, I wouldn't
Check
recommend
out
it.
the pictures.
Yeah,
You want to look at the pretty
sure.
pictures? Sure.
Check out the book. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna read the book.
Yeah, I'm gonna find the
Sounds
book.
pretty good.
Maybe we'll, for our patrons, do a book discussion
Yeah,
regarding
book
this.
review. I know you're getting big on bookstagram, so.
Well, I'm starting to read again. I think that's the thing.
But yeah,
So, yeah.
that's gonna have to be it for this episode.
Yeah.
But anyway, we want to thank you so much for listening, of course, or watching if you're watching this on YouTube. Once again, we're available on all podcast platforms every Saturday from now on. And if you want an extra episode and commentary tracks and a bunch of other stuff, check us out on patreon.com/don'tmakeascene and support us over there. For just $3 a month, you'll get all the stuff.
Yeah.
But that's it for this episode, and we will join you in the next episode for a little more light-hearted entertainment.
Oh, yes.
Hopefully. With Roland Emmerich's Moonfall. Ugh.
Yes.
But until then, have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.